Jagmeet Singh's future in federal politics could all come down to one vote in one riding with 73,000 eligible voters. The NDP leader announced this week he'll run for a seat in Parliament in the BC riding of Burnaby South, a riding the NDP won by less than 600 ballots in the last election. Singh is actually from Ontario, so why choose this by-election and this seat? Joining me now is the leader of the federal NDP, Jagmeet Singh. Hi, Mr. Singh. Thanks for coming back on the show. Nice to see you again. You won the leadership, and at the time you said...
Hey, Vassy, it's great to be here.
Sorry to interrupt. You said when you won the leadership, you said at the time that you weren't in a rush to get a seat. So why are you running now?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is I feel like people in Canada are really feeling this pressure where the Liberal federal government has not done what they need. And they keep on telling people to wait, whether it's things like the housing crisis and the fact that the majority of the funding won't roll out until 2 years from now, whether it's pharmacare and the fact that people need access to medication now, but the Liberal government is talking about doing yet another study, asking people to wait yet again. And then things like spending billions of public dollars on a 65-year-old leaky pipeline. It's not what people want. People want to see our government investing in clean energy jobs, good jobs for today and for tomorrow.
So what difference, though, will having a seat make? And I ask just because I remember when you did win the leadership, you were pretty adamant that it wasn't necessary in order to accomplish what you just mentioned. So why now?
Well, the people of Burnaby South deserve to have representation. There's going to be a by-election, and it's important that the people feel that they've got someone who's in their corner, willing to push the government. We know that a Liberal MP won't be able to push the federal government. A Conservative MP won't be able to push on these issues of housing when they're the responsible for the current crisis that we're in. They're not going to push on healthcare. They had a plan to cut healthcare, which the Liberals have now enacted to the tune of $36 billion cut over 10 years. So on issues that matter to people, they deserve a new Democrat voice that's going to push on these very important, vital needs and solutions that people need to see happen.
Did you feel political pressure to do this now? And I ask because there are a lot of people saying over the past few months that you need to have a stronger presence on the Hill, a stronger presence in the House specifically. Did you feel that pressure?
Not at all. For me, it's always been about people and how we can best represent people and their needs. And for me, there's no question about it. The people of Burnaby South deserve representation. There's going to be a by-election, and this is an opportunity to make sure that their voice is heard on the issues that matter. The people of Burnaby care so much about housing. It's a top issue. They care about healthcare and they care about the environment. These are national issues as well. And so this is a great chance to be a voice for people and take these issues to the government and push the government to actually work on addressing these problems.
But is it just about the people of Burnaby, or is there a desire perhaps among caucus members of your party to see you spend more time in Ottawa and to spend time in the House of Commons?
Not at all. The focus is always on people. The focus has always got to be about how, as New Democrats, we can push the government to do what's necessary for people.
So this
people
has nothing to do with your caucus?
And they can't afford to wait. And what the... Go on?
Sorry, this has nothing to do with your caucus?
No, not at all. The focus here is again, on people. There's a by-election. There's an opportunity to be a voice for people, to take the issues that people are talking about here in Burnaby. I spoke to some young people today who are talking to me about the fact that they're worried that they can't find a place to live in the neighborhood they grew up in. And they're so concerned about that when they should be concerned about their future. They should be concerned about how they're going to pursue their dreams. And they're thinking about the stress of where they're going to live and whether they can live in the community that they spent their whole lives in, with the neighborhoods they grew up in. And these concerns, to me, are just not what people should be focused on. I mean, the fact that the government has done nothing on this is troubling to me. It's heartbreaking that people are worrying about where to live. And it's a direct result of the fact that the federal government has not done its job in ensuring that there's a solution to the housing crisis.
You're staking your political future, sort of, on a riding that your party won by just 547 votes in the last election. How risky do you think this is?
Well, it's not my future. It's the future of Canadians. It's a future for the people of Burnaby South. It's the future of of our country. And for me, that's what's at stake. It's how do we push forward the agenda that's going to make people's lives better. Our commitment, and what we're determined to do is make people's lives better, and that's what's at stake. It's not about me. It's never been about me. It's about the people.
With respect, though, my question is around the nature of the race. It's traditionally been very tight in that area. The boundaries were redrawn, but in the last election, it was just over 500 votes that the NDP won. I'm wondering, how risky a move it is politically for you.
Well, I hear you in terms of what the margins were for victory. But what's more important is to look at, for me, what's important to look at is what are the issues that people care about? People care about, they repeat again and again, housing, healthcare, the environment. On these three issues, Conservatives are not going to provide the solution. They're not going to address the healthcare issues. They're not going to address the housing issue, and they're not going to address the environmental issue. Nor are the Liberals. On these issues that matter, New Democrats are in the corner of people and are going to continue to fight hard on these important issues. And it doesn't matter what the margins are. The people have shown very clearly that these are their priorities, and these are the things that we're going to work really hard on.
You've received a bit of criticism for being a parachute candidate. Obviously, you're from Ontario. A lot of people, you were a provincial politician here. A lot of people expected you to run in Ontario. Are you going to move to Burnaby, win or lose in this by-election, whenever it's called?
I made a commitment that if we win, I'm definitely going to move out. I spoke to my wife about it, and we're both excited about moving out here. It's a beautiful community, and we look forward to it.
So not if you lose?
No, we made it clear. I mean, there's too much at stake. And this is not a question about losing. This is a question about how we can make sure we've got the issues that people care about front and center, and we're pushing the government to do something on it.
But are you worried about sending the message to those people of Burnaby that you've been speaking about throughout this interview that, you're really only committed to them if you win?
Well, my commitment is to be a national leader. And as a national leader, I've got to represent every part of this country. I've got to make sure that everyone in this country feels their voice is reflected. And the issues of Burnaby South are really national issues as well. When we talk about these issues of housing, of healthcare, of the environment, these are issues that impact everyone in Canada, particularly given the extreme weather that we've seen with flooding in Toronto, to the mass forest fires across BC again, and also in Ontario. And we know that climate is a big issue, and I'm going to be a champion on these issues. And when it comes to housing, this is a crisis that's people across Canada are struggling with. This is something that I'm going to be focused in on working. And when it comes to healthcare, this is a strong commitment for New Democrats. We care about making sure people have access to healthcare. We want to make sure we implement pharmacare here in Canada. These are things that are not only issues for the people of Burnaby, but these are national issues.
I want to ask you actually about one of those issues. You talk about climate and the environment. Given the current diplomatic dispute with Saudi Arabia, do you think there's a case to be made to focus more on Canadian oil and less on relying on Saudi oil?
Well, I think there's a definite case to be made that there's serious concerns around any trade with a country that's got such a bad track record when it comes to human rights. It also is now shown to be an unpredictable partner. We've long called for ending the trade deal, the arms trade deal, saying that it doesn't make sense to be giving this military equipment to a country that oppresses its own people, oppresses women, and is now reports of oppressing the people of Yemen. So there's serious concerns about that. Being sovereign when it comes to our oil would mean having the capacity to refine here in Canada. I think that's something that people have looked at. But the future for our country is going to be in renewable energies. The future for our sustainability is going to be in how we can create energy that's green, that's clean. That's the future, and I think that's where we need to focus our investments.
Do you think Canada, though, aside from that focus that you just discussed, should be moving towards a sovereign future on oil? And do you admit that would require the building of a pipeline to get out to a refinery?
Well, the focus should be not on exporting raw resources. We see what that's done to BC, for example, when the exporting of raw logs shut down all the opportunities for employment in the mills. Exporting raw goods is not a way to build a strong economy. The focus should be on value add, and that's a priority, I think, for Canadians. We want to see value added to our resources. The rip and ship notion of an economy is not effective.
But doesn't that require a pipeline of some sort to get to that refinery?
It requires refineries first and foremost. I think that's the priority. the priority. I mean, if we really want to talk about creating opportunities here in Canada, that would be a way to create those opportunities and to ensure that we've got the sovereignty when it comes to our supply. There's other nations that we can look at in terms of access to oil, and we should look at that as well.
So you think we should be buying oil from other countries?
I think we should look at that as an alternative to dealing with a nation that's got a serious track record of human rights violations, oppression of women, oppression of those who have raised concerns and voiced criticism of the government, a track record now of oppressing neighboring countries like Yemen. This is a serious problem. I think we should take a hard look at, does it make sense for us to continue to have trade relations with a country that has such a bad track record?
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thanks a lot, Mr. Singh. Best of luck in the race.
Thank you, Vassy. Thanks so much.